Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So by now you guys may or may not have seen the track videos, and it's been a while. So with all the track videos that I do, I like to do a little bit of a summary about the car and kind of the day, what I learned, and what I want to do next with the car. It's early Sunday morning, and I was up early to watch F1, so I may sound tired, look tired, but I've got my coffee. All right, so a couple of things to touch on with the car. The first one is going to be the brakes. I'm sure everyone wants to know about how the brakes did. Going into the event, there was some concern about the pad selection on the car. So the front pads are Frodo 3.12S. It's like their latest compound. And the rear is the Rabesto's ST45s. And the concern was that the ST45s were going to be too much brake pad for the rear of the car, engaging ABS and kind of making the car get swirly under braking. And while initially I thought that may have been the case, while I was betting the car, or betting the pads for the car, as well as the first couple of laps, or the first couple of brake applications on the track. Once the tires warmed up and gripped, the brake bias or the brake pads were phenomenal. The balance felt good, and you could really trail the car into the corner, or at least some of the corners. So the concerns over the pad selection, it's not an issue. And I think originally this came up because I was talking with Joshua Halka, and he ran the same compounds and found the rears to be too much for his car. But we have two different big brake kits up front, and I think that might kind of be the difference there. There was no fade out of the front big brake kit, so that's awesome to see. Although, I don't think Thunderhill, there's only one corner in Thunderhill that really is a problem for my old kit, and it wasn't a problem for this new kit. I think the true test of the new big brake kit is going to be Laguna Seca whenever we get a chance to go down there. If it can pass Laguna Seca, then I think brakes for the car are a non-issue from here on out. One of the challenges with the new pads and the new brakes was adjusting how I would brake the car. So prior to this, on my old pads and old big brake kit, I could pretty much just slam my foot into the pedal. I mean, ease into it, but I could bury my foot. And there was never going to be a point where I would lock the tires up or hit ABS or anything like that. Now it's different. I have to be careful with my initial movement to the brakes. If it's too aggressive, I can overload the tires. I can hear them start to screech, kind of feel ABS start to kick in a little bit. So I have to be careful with my initial brake application and then really kind of ramp it up. So that took time to get used to because it's a completely different feel, and I've got to relearn how to use the brakes on that car. The second thing was moving my braking points. I can brake a lot deeper with the new brake setup, and there's some corners at Thunderhill due to elevation change. Sometimes you don't want to brake going down the hill. Sometimes you want to brake as you're going over the hill. Suffice to say, I didn't figure it all out. So there's still a lot to be learned about how to use the new brake setup effectively. And so in just that one aspect of driving, I think we've got a lot of time to be had out of the car, or to get out of the car. So I think that's it on brakes. If I missed anything, go ahead and ask, but I don't want to talk too long on just brakes. The radiator, that's another big one that I think people want to know about. Was it worth the money? Did it do its job? And so that was one of the reasons why we signed up for this particular event. It was forecasted to hit 108 degrees, and so I figure, you know, we might as well shake it down in the highest temperatures the car is probably ever going to see. Session 1 and 2 were fine. Didn't have to touch the heater. Went out on track. Did laps. Didn't really have to care about radiator temps or oil temps. Session 3, went out on track, didn't have the heater on, and I think I turned it on for maybe 1 or 2 laps as sort of like a precautionary measure. But the car didn't seem to care, and I think coolant temps hit about 220. I don't know what ambient temps were, what outside temps were, but session 3 I think was like 1150, so getting close to the hottest part of the day. Session 4 was at 250, so probably the hottest part of the day, so at least over 105. And in that particular session, I turned the heater on after I think 2 laps. So went out there without the heater on, turned it on 2 laps, and we were peaking on coolant at about 230, and oil hit almost 270. You know, 230 is high. Is it the worst thing in the world for that car? I don't think so. And quite honestly, at that point, it is so hot outside and the asphalt is so hot, or the tarmac is so hot, that you're not going to be setting any personal best times. Your lap times are going to be way off your fastest possible times, right? So an argument has to be made that, you know, did the radiator perform at that temperature? I mean, it did pretty good. Do you want to beat on the car consistently for 20 minutes in that temperature? Probably not, right? You're just going to be overstressing components, melting tires, etc., and you're not racing for points or for money. So I would say the radiator did its job. I'm happy with it. I'd like to test it some more before I make a huge conclusion on it. But the initial test is I'm satisfied. I think it's money well spent. And if there are problems with it in cooler temperatures, I'll report back. But I think we should be okay. I think it'll be okay. Let's see here. And there's some tricks we can do, right? Right now it's just straight Subaru coolant. So there's no distilled water, there's no water wetter, nothing like that. Okay, so we talked about brakes, we talked about radiators, or the radiator. Let's talk about the safety equipment. So the roll bar and the Hans device, or the head restraint device, how did that all kind of work out? Initially, I was it's been a long time since I've been actually in a 6-point in a car, and I thought maybe it'd be uncomfortable, or, you know, I tend to, if you look at the videos with me with a 3-point, I tend to lean up onto the steering wheel, but in this case you can't, so you really are strapped into the seat. I thought it'd be weird, and like 2 or 3 laps in, it was no big deal, right? Back to driving the car like it was nothing. One of the nicest parts about the whole system, especially being strapped in on the 6-point, is I can really throw the car around. So in session 4, we were definitely going for it. I mean, the tires were hot, it was getting greasy, but we were missing apexes. We were rotating the car on entry. We were understeering, sliding the car a little bit. It's with being strapped into the car, you can really feel what the car is doing, and the confidence level goes through the roof. So I think that's a huge bonus there with all the safety equipment, you know, outside of the fact of being safe in case anything were to happen. The confidence level in being able to push the car closer to the limit or at the limit is much higher. So I'm super stoked on that. Someone was asking me if the roll bar did anything, or if I could feel anything in terms of chassis rigidity. I'm sure it did something, but the difference between being strapped in and not strapped in is so day and night that I couldn't tell you, you know, how much was contributed by the roll bar. So that's a tough question to answer. Um, the other thing I learned was I got to replace the battery on my pyrometer more often. Was trying to dial in tire pressures, and once I plugged in the probe, the pyrometer was just complaining about low battery, and I couldn't measure any of my tire temperatures to dial in pressure. So there's definitely some time on the table there in terms of just optimizing the tire that I have. I also have way too much camber. So previously, on all the other videos you've seen on the channel, the car's running a 235 tire, essentially the stock sizing, 235, 45, 17. And because of the big brake kit, we had to go to an 18-inch rim, and so we started running a 255 tire. And previously, the car had about 3.8 degrees of negative camber in the front and like 2.5 degrees of negative camber in the rear, and we were just chewing up the shoulders of the tires. So without thinking about it too much, I upped the front to -4, and the rear to -2.5, and went out with the 255 tires. And as much as I'm throwing the car into the corners or sliding it like in session 4 when it's hot and just kind of like overdriving the car, I'm not even getting close to using the shoulder of the tire. So I just have way too much camber. I don't even need a pyrometer to tell me that. So the goal here, or the objective, one of the things I'm going to do as a takeaway from this event, is to pull half a degree off of every corner. I like the balance of the car and the way it handles now under liftoff throttle, like lifting off the throttle under trailing, and the way the understeer is very controllable on throttle application. So I don't want to change that balance. I'm going to take half a degree out of all 4 corners, and then check the tire wear again. Also replace that battery on the pyrometer. Outside of that, I think that is about it. There's some small things about line adjustments and this and that, but I think we haven't optimized the tires, so all that stuff is kind of, there's no frame of reference. So the goal here is to optimize the tires, optimize the tire pressures, and then see where the car's at. I suspect if we go back and look at this tire in particular, in the 235 size at about on a day at Thunderhill that was about 70 degrees or 75, the car did a low 205, and in essentially 100-degree weather in a 255 tire with better brakes, the car did a high 205. So I imagine just being in like 75-degree weather again, the car is going to be significantly faster. I have a feeling that it can match the AR1 times in the 235 size, which is like a low, mid I think it's a mid 203, I think. So we'll see. We'll probably get a chance at that either later in the year or the beginning of next year, and see how that goes. And I guess the last thing is, if you have a chance, you can go to the website, click on telemetry. It'll bring you to the Podium platform that is run by Autosport Labs, and all of the telemetry from the car is there for all 4 sessions. Now, I know I don't have any video footage from session 3, but the data logger recorded everything. All of that data is there, and you can kind of go over intake temperatures, manifold temperatures, boost pressures, ignition timing. So if you're kind of like a data nerd, all that stuff is there. What's really interesting is in session 4, when it's like 105 out, I'm sure the car was down maybe like 100 to 150 wheel horses. Like, it was significantly slower than normal. So much though that Rodell and I were going down the front straight, and he was pointing me by, and I was flat out and I couldn't pass him. And he's in an E36. So the power difference there in optimum weather is substantial. But at 105, he had to let off and to try to let me go by. So I think power, brakes, tires, and optimizing all of that, we should be able to get seconds out of the car. And I think that's sort of it for an update here. I've got some last minute prep to do. We've got Sonoma in 5 days. So I need to do an oil change here, just do an overall inspection of the car, check the tires, make sure they're okay. Probably won't align it, don't have time. And we'll see you guys back here in a week with more footage from Sonoma, as well as thoughts and impressions, and see if we can beat that. I think it's a 157 the last time we were there on these tires. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys find these videos interesting. If you have any questions or concerns, ask in the comment section, and we'll see you at the next one. Take care.